Alrighty, so I got a suggestion from a viewer a little while back whenever the original Jumping Box event was going on that I should make a video on how to gear all of these new free characters that we're getting from this festival, which I think is a really good idea. I think there's some really useful characters in here that you might not know how to gear. There's obviously some ones that aren't going to be very useful, but I'll tell you how to gear them just in case you want to anyway. But yeah, let's go over these things. So the first one is the Jumping Box 1. If you're new to the channel, by the way, feel free to subscribe. We're almost at 15k, which would be super cool. But first character is Red Hawk. I don't see a lot of people actually getting any sort of real use out of this character, if I'm being completely honest. I don't have a gear set made for either Green or Red Hawk, and the big kicker here is that he does get a boost on his passive whenever you're using him during like a festival. So it's okay. He increases all stats of allies whenever they have full ultimate move gauge, so it's basically like an ult rushing support kind of unit, and you would basically just want to throw him in the back line. He does have a stance cancel card and a shatter card, which are okay, and then his ultimate is just lowers HP related stats, so nothing really like offensively like great. But I would definitely say that you could definitely just throw on an HP defense set, throw him in the back line if you wanted to, and call it a day. But like I said, I don't really see anyone actually use these units. I've never really gotten any real use out of them in the first place, so I would say HP defense set at the bare minimum, just so that way you can get extra box DC out of the character, maybe. But that's just me. Next up, we have Green Lillia, which is a pretty interesting character. She was actually a free character that came out whenever they first introduced the 7 catastrophes to the game, which I thought was kind of cool. I know that there's a really big controversy whenever she first came out on Global, because on JP they gave her out 6/6, and then on Global they only gave her out 1/6, which was kind of weird. Or maybe not even that. I think you had to summon for her on Global. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but either way, she is a pretty mediocre unit. Lowers attack related, or just attack stat by 16% in PvP only, and she does work in the sub slot, so her skills aren't great. They're attack-related stat lowers, and then the other one is increases damage taken by all enemies. So not great. This ultimate lowers skill ranks if it deranks a card, which isn't good, really, to be honest. But because she's a passive or like a back slot PvP unit, I would definitely say just go HP defense set if you want to. I have HP defense sets built for the other Lillia and the Awakened Lillia as well. And I would probably say that HP defense is going to be the best set to use for her, just because you just want CC on the unit if you're actually going to use her, because she only works in PvP and you're not going to use her on the field anyway. There's really no reason to do anything other than that on her. So yeah. Next up we have Griamore. Griamore is an interesting character as well, because he was given out for free last year, and he ended up getting nerfed into the ground, which is very unfortunate. I ended up powering him up fully, but I did not give him a UR gear set, which was really good for me, because they basically changed the way the character worked. If you're unaware, his attack card used to scale off of defense instead of attack, which was really good if you paired it with his ultimate, because it gives you so much extra defense-related stats. So it just made him hit really, really hard, but then they made it to where it scales off attack, and it really nerfed him. So originally, I would have told you to put a triple defense set on this character, but now that he doesn't scale off of defense for his attack, you're basically just going to use him as a tank, which means that you just want to have HP defense, and you could potentially use him as a link character, or like an association character, whatever you call it, but I probably wouldn't do anything other than HP defense on him. Next up we have Freyr, which is one that I think a lot of people are probably very happy that they're getting a copy of, because he's just a very good character in general, very, very useful for a lot of PvE activities and stuff, has a really good passive that just boosts stats, makes you immune to ignites, which are really good. Very attack-based character. He does have a stance cancel on level 2, and his other card is a cleave card, which actually scales off of your crit damage, which obviously is a good indicator. His ultimate is a death ultimate, so it hits twice, so you just kind of want to do as much damage as humanly possible. It's very good for getting through damage caps and stuff like that on demonic beasts, or any sort of PvE activity that they've just automatically thrown a damage cap on for whatever reason. So because he's a DPS character, I definitely recommend you run him on an attack crit damage set. Try to get as much damage out as you possibly can with him. Normal substat rolls on everything so far. There's not been anything that I would personally say that you need to swap over to anything else for at the moment, but yeah, that's pretty standard for Freyr as far as I can tell. I think a lot of people do use him in different game modes, but attack crit works pretty universal. Next up, we have Green Valenti from the Jumping Box 2 event, which Green Valenti is not really good, especially nowadays. She has definitely fallen very far, and she wasn't even really super good when she came out. Her Sever card actually did pretty good damage when it came out, but she was only meta for like a week, maybe 2 weeks at that. She does have a Disable card, which is kind of nice, and her ultimate does increase damage dealt by 50% at max, so it could potentially do a lot of damage, but the way her passive works, she's actually a very interesting character. You don't want to build her with a normal set. You want to mess around with hers a little bit. It increases the hero's pierce rate and crit damage by half of the hero's crit resistance at the start of the battle. So, that being said, you would definitely want to build her like an HP crit resistance set. If you're going to do damage dealing with her, or you want to use her as a damage dealer, you could go attack crit resistance. I think that was originally what people sort of built for her, but because PvP is so CC focused, and more than likely you're going to be using her in PvP, even though she can be used in everything else, I would say, you know, you're probably just going to end up going for an HP sort of set on her anyway. I did not end up building a set for this character, unfortunately, but I think I did at some point, and I think I just repurposed it because I never used this character. I do have sets for the other two, which is kind of ironic because I do like this one more, but overall, I would say HP crit resistance set for this one, and then if you want to go, you could either go regular defense rolls on the middle pieces for more CC, or if you just want to keep playing into the passive to get more pierce rate and crit damage and crit resistance at that, you could go crit resistance rolls, but personally, I don't really recommend you build a set for her unless you just have no one else to build sets for and you're just going through your box and building one for everybody. Next up, we have Ragnarok Ban, which is absolutely a fantastic character. Super happy that they're giving just a free copy of this unit out to everyone. It took me about a year to get him, even after his banner came out, because originally he looked like the biggest skip of your life, but ended up being like the most meta backliner of all time. So, yeah, if you don't know, he increases all allies' attack-related stats by 10% and decreases all enemies' pierce rate, crit chance, and crit damage by 15%, which is very good. But the kicker is it works in the back slot, so you're going to be mainly using him in the back line. You're going to be using him to just buff your sort of attack-based teams to do more damage and sort of help the enemy do less damage to you overall. Not very attack-based character. He has a charge card and then a dissolve card on the second one. His ultimate is a deplete ultimate move gauge, so he's not really meant to be like a big damage dealer. Highly recommend you build him an HP defense set. I've actually repurposed my my Transcendent Bond set for this one, and I've been working on it so that way I can use him in PvP. But if I was going to use him, I would definitely use him on HP defense, and he would definitely be in the back line. So HP defense with just as high rolls as you can get, so that way you can get as much CC as possible. Normal substats is completely fine. Definitely recommend that. So, next up, we have, I'm not entirely sure who's next. I want to say it was Arthur? No, it's actually Red Thonar. Red Thonar is a very interesting character who does not have a normal gear set. She is one that you're going to be running specifically on Skull and Hati, which is the dog's demonic beast battle, and you're basically just using her as a support type character. If you don't know, she's basically going to, like, every time 3 attacks are used on the field, you're increasing attack-related stats by 40%, which is huge. So you basically just want her to survive as much as possible. I personally have an attack crit damage set, or a crit defense set on her. So that way she, is this a crit resistance? No, it's a crit resistance, not crit defense, sorry. Crit resistance set on her, so that way she does not get crit, because whenever she gets crit, it deals a lot of damage. I have an attack set. I originally started with an HP crit resistance set, but I ended up opting for the attack resistance set, or attack crit resistance set, because the fact that you have a deplete ultimate move gauge card with her, and depending on which dog is sort of the bigger one for the phase, you might not be able to actually deal damage to that dog. I know specifically in Floor 2, Phase 1, the white dog ends up having a lot of defense-related stats compared to like normal phases, and this card ends up getting patience unless you have it as like a level 2 or something like that. So it may be worth investing into her attack cosmetics, or her weapon cosmetics, or even just trying to get some extra decent rolls on your attack pieces. You can see that mine aren't necessarily great, but they're pretty decent overall. Yeah, but this one's a bit of an odd one. I do have crit resistance rolls on them, just so that way I can try my hardest to keep her alive at all costs, because she's basically the big support. You're needing her so that way you can actually deal good damage on the fight. So yeah, attack crit resistance, which is a bit of a weird set, but it is what it is. Last up, we have the new Arthur, if I'm not mistaken. It is Thonar, and then, yes, Arthur. I have been testing him out today because I just pulled him this morning. And so I don't necessarily know that I know the absolute best set for him, but I would 100% tell you that an HP defense set is more than likely the best. I do have the defense pieces right here. I did just try him out with these crit defense pieces, which I think are very interesting. I'll have that video out. It should already be up on the channel as of the time of this one coming out. But I think the crit defense pieces are actually pretty good at keeping your sort of character alive and everything. But overall, there's just a lot of one-shot potential in the meta. And so if you're going to go for survivability and you can sacrifice the CC, crit defense seems like it's a really good option. But if you just want to go pure CC and try to go first, then probably just HP defense would be the better set here. But it really just depends on if you have the CC to sacrifice with a unit like this. Obviously, this is the second Excalibur Arthur that we've gotten, so I personally do have all of his cosmetics maxed out. I know that they're a little bit hidden from my webcam, but I do have him pretty much completely invested into. But because he's a free character, we only currently have him at 1/6, which means that you're probably not going to have the best CC. This is with an HP defense set. I'm just under 64,000, and the only reason I'm that far down is because some of these pieces, I think this one specifically, the rolls on this one are pretty bad. The rolls on this one are also a little bit lacking. I could definitely work on his gear a little bit more to get his CC a little bit higher, but he already has a relic. He's pretty old as far as like stat-wise, like the old Arthur, or the other Arthur came out during the 2nd anniversary, so he's running on some pretty old stats. But I would say HP defense set is pretty normal. That's pretty standard. If you want to go the extra mile, try to make sure that he sort of survives, because he does kind of work a little bit with crit defense. He doesn't like scale off of it or anything like that, but it's definitely a stat worth looking into because of how much the meta relies on characters doing big damage by critting, sort of is like in the current meta. So I would say HP defense is very normal. Crit, or HP crit defense, would be maybe a little bit of a stretch, but if you have the extra sort of resources to work on it, you could potentially make it and sort of try it out for yourself. But that's pretty much it for me. Those are all the free characters that we are getting so far. I guess technically you could say that Mave is also a free character. They did give out her on a like step up banner. If you're curious, I did give her UR gear, and I gave her HP defense because she is just a very regular sort of unit. She's not going to be doing a whole lot of damage. She has a deplete card and a buff card, so yeah, and her ultimate doesn't even deal damage, so not really any reason to give her anything attack based. So that's pretty much it from me, though. Thank you guys so much for watching. If there's anything that I didn't mention in the video that you would maybe want to mention, leave it down in the comments below. If there's any other characters that you want to, I don't know how to gear them or anything, I guess leave that as well. I can try to answer as many comments as possible. But yeah, that is basically it for me. Feel free to subscribe if you have not already. I will see you guys in the next one.